Hello again and welcome to another video on an OCRB geography question. This is a really big one, really important one. 8 marks, going to try and get through as much as possible, maybe do a sample peel paragraph and talk a little bit about the structure of this question. So evaluate how successful and low income developing country you have studied, or an LIDC you have studied, has been in meeting the Millennium Development Goals. Let's bug our question. So we're going to box, underline and glance back at our answer while we're writing it. Have a bit of a look, see if we're using all of the keywords that are given to us in the question. So for example, if we were writing about the Millennium Development Goal of reducing poverty in half, we want to look back to see if we're talking about the fact that it's met the goal. Are we evaluating? Has it been successful? How has it not been successful? That we're referring to the correct type of country. For example, Zambia is our example of our LIDC. So evaluate means to discuss positives and negatives, or discuss if something has been met or not met. In this case, that is really kind of obvious based on the following words, which we're going to underline. How successful has it been? Has it been successful? Has it not been successful? So tick or X, or is there somewhere in between? Low income and developing country that we're looking at is Zambia. Don't go talk about another one. Don't talk about Tanzania, because Tanzania is the resource reliance case study. Though we can talk about things like food security in this answer, linking to other topics. It's really good for your level 3 8 marks. It's the dynamic development unit. All right, hence the word development in the question. So, have you studied you have studied how it is meeting the Millennium Development Goals? After you say this for the first time, you can write MDGs. But if you don't write Millennium Development Goals the first time, and just say MDGs straight off the bat, you're gonna be marked down on SPAG, because it's tier 3 words. They want to see you using this tier 3 vocabulary. Now, what can we talk about when we answer this question? Well, how has it been successful? Some of the talking points that you've got are the poverty goal, trying to reduce poverty by half by 2015. You've got the goal of trying to tackle or combat the HIV and AIDS viruses. All right, and just basically reduce this as low as possible, so that it's affecting less of the population. We've got making sure that all are in primary education. And one more, I'm going to talk a little bit about, two more, let's say. I'm going to talk about the idea of investment and debt relief, seeking an international partnership. And that comes from China, for example. Partnership. Okay, now, one more. Sustainability. It links into the Sustainable Development Goals, which are called the SDGs. So you just replace the word millennium with sustainable. They started in 2015 when the Millennium Development Goals ended. So this is kind of like an additional bit of information that we can draw into our answer and be really using a lot of tier 3 vocabulary, linking to other topics to try and get those 8 marks. What kind of links to other topics can we make? Or even to modern day concerns like the coronavirus or whatever we can bring in from recent events that might have affected Zambia. Now, these are some of the goals that we can refer to. Let's have a look at a sample paragraph. I would expect you to have an introduction where you talk about the, when did the goals start? When did they end? Bit about Zambia, its location, its status as an LIDC, and why it needed the MDGs. Because of the problem of poverty and all of these other problems that we could potentially discuss here. Now, couple of peel paragraphs is what we would expect, at least, if they're very well developed, or 3 very small peel paragraphs, which is literally following the structure that I'm going to give you now. I like the idea of 3 of these peel paragraphs. It's not going to require a huge amount of information, but it means that we can talk about a few different goals. So the first goal the goal that I'm going to use as an example is investment. I'm going to say Zambia, as one of the MDGs, had to seek international partnership. Develop partnership with other countries. And the example is going to be with China. Okay, now in the late 90s, China was interested in the copper industry. So the copper industry attracted China to invest in Zambia, and as a result of this, we see things like investment coming in and debt relief. So China's going to help out by giving some money back to Zambia in return for kind of the slow takeover of their mines, their copper mines, for kind of having their company settle in this country, as well as paying very little to no tax. One of the draws that brought people like China in there in the first place, and they're going to rid later on, around 2006. They're going to rid Zambia of its debt. Okay, so investment came in the late 1990s, let's say 1999, and then in 2006-ish. Have a look for that in your textbook, because I'm not going to don't quote me on the exact date there. This is approximately 2006. China obtains debt relief from Zambia obtains debt relief, okay, from the International Monetary Fund, and no longer owes all of the money that it owed to China, so it can still continue to develop. Okay, now by developing these international partnerships, has it been successful? So by developing international negotiations with China, or negotiations and partnerships with China, it's going to be able to reduce its poverty, catch up on development as a result of that debt relief. It's also going to be able to, through its kind of, I'm not going to write this down, but through its relationship with China, China is going to be able to provide money towards things like schools, development aid. So through China, I will actually write this down, through China and its investment, it's going to get development aid. It's going to have improved education. Education is going to benefit. We're going to get more schools. We're going to get more hospitals. So healthcare is going to benefit. We're going to get more technology to reduce problems such as HIV and AIDS. So you can kind of see how we can link in other concepts here. So these are some of the ways that you can evaluate, and you could say that this was a successful goal as a result, that they had a very successful Millennium Development Goal in terms of seeking international investment, which despite the amount of money that they owed, they would end up having a lot of debt relief. Again, I would expect 1 paragraph on each of these, or you can try and put into 1 paragraph a couple of goals that tie in well together. Okay? A way that you can do that is, and I'm going to do this very, very quickly, that you could talk about poverty. Poverty links really well to something like HIV and AIDS, and you can kind of build on those together. So you could say, poverty, the aim was to reduce it by half by 2015, but this was not successful. They didn't reduce it even to 40%. It was slightly higher, around 42% by 2015. By 2010. So by 2015, it definitely didn't get to the around 30% that it needed to go to. So it was only reduced to around 42%. And as a result, they're not going to have affordability for things like technology and medicine, which would help them to treat problems such as AIDS, HIV, or even when it comes to things like the coronavirus. So they've got to seek these things elsewhere from basically governing bodies like the International Monetary Fund or other countries that are willing to be charitable and donate these things. Okay, so you could say as a result of this, they've got less autonomy to fix problems. So that's a way that you could have two goals in one paragraph here. I'm just going to box that off. Okay, I hope you get on well with this question. Please make sure that you submit it to me on Google Classroom.